Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to Conversations from Stritch. My name is Dave Livingston, president of Lewis University, and it is wonderful to be with you again. I am here, as usual, with Dr. Christopher Sindt, our provost. It is our new time, so for the rest of the semester, we'll be coming to you at noon on Thursdays. We're excited about that. There's a few other things that we're going to add to the show this semester, which we'll talk about as the program goes on over the next couple weeks. I really hope that all of you had a wonderful Christmas, a great New Year. And, you know, in the weeks as we were leading up to our last show last year, Chris and I both said multiple times how aware we were of how exhausted people were. For 9 months, people have been working extremely hard to accompany our students, to be with our students, to be with each other as colleagues, and to figure out how to do whatever part of their aspect of the university is, whether it's being a student, being an employee, being a faculty member, in a really new environment. And all of that culminated, I think, as we got to commencement in December. We did the May commencement, we did the December commencement. It was a really wonderful celebration, and I want to, you know, I'll say it now, and hopefully I'll remember to say it at the end, but I want to really thank John Kilpatrick, John Carey, and Joe Glatz, who are actually in the studio right now making this possible for you to see. But they also were deeply involved in making sure the commencement went off well as literally probably 100 other employees who were so involved in making sure that the commencement ceremony went well. And I thought it was just an amazing event for our students. We, of course, wish we could have been together, but it was really great. My hope is that after that commencement, as we went into the break time, that you were able to find time for you, yourself, to be with your family, to take a little downtime. We now have about a week and a half before classes start, so I can feel it myself, being on campus a couple times this week, and really feel it in the sense of what, you know, employees that I run into and faculty. There's a kind of excitement, but also a sense of stress that we only have now a week and a half to get our classes back together, to get those shells back populated, to get our lectures and all that stuff done. And I know for students, as I watch the Lewis app, people are wondering if they can buy this book or sell this book, and all the, what do I have to do to get my vaccine? What do I have to turn in? And that's a lot of what we want to do today, is to talk a little bit about the return to campus. Before I turn it over to Dr. Sindt, I do also want to just recognize that as a country, the last 48 hours has been, really amazing in many ways, disheartening in some, tragic, but also really heartening in the sense that our democracy has really stood up in some sense, and I want to say my appreciation for everyone that's been involved, and also for us as a community. I want to say how important it is for us to stay focused on listening to each other, being willing to have hard conversations, and recommitting to our sanctified zone. And I'm going to say that to the whole community in an email this afternoon, but wanted to say it here today that we are committed at Lewis University to the principles of conversation, of care and compassion for each other, of listening, and that we believe in our democracy, and we believe that we should continue to fulfill that as an academic community, an intellectual community here, but also that we need to support all of those around the country who are involved in that democratic process. So with that, excited to see all of you back on campus in the next couple weeks. And I'll turn it over to Dr. Sindt to talk a little bit about this, lots of announcements about how we get from today, Thursday, to a week and a half from now.
Great, thank you, and welcome everyone. It's great to be with you. It's great to be here on this campus in winter and seeing snow on the ground as we walk around. Before I forget, this is a time, in addition to everything President Livingston just said, it's a time of preparation for the spring semester. So I want to express my gratitude for all the people, all our staff and faculty especially, who are working so hard to make the beginning of the spring semester powerful and rich and new and as educationally excellent as we can possibly make it. I know people are preparing classes and back in their offices supporting students as they register and have other needs as the semester is getting away. We had our first new student orientation of the calendar year today, and so it's great to see new students coming onto campus as well. Also, I just want to quickly mention, maybe next week we'll probably talk in more detail about some of the great public events that are going to be happening over the first few weeks of the semester. But our coaches and student athletes have been on campus almost continuously through December. Our swimming and basketball teams came back in late December, and most others are now coming onto campus and practicing. So especially congratulations to the basketball and swimming who have continued their seasons through the winter, and then also just a quick shout out to our women's volleyball team who were ranked number 14 in the nation in the preseason Division II poll that just came out I think yesterday or the day before. So we're really excited that our student athletes have continued to do excellent things during this time. I also will have an email out today, my typical Thursday email with lots of information and links. So I'm just going to go over some of it now, but if there are questions, please ask or refer to that email for some important clarifications or links. So a couple of things. And now I'm switching to COVID-19 things. The Will County Health Department is asking for all Will County residents to complete a survey to get information in preparation for vaccines. So I think that we might have a link to that site. There it is. That's just what it looks like, just so you're familiar with it when you link to it later. And that has a form that anyone who's a resident of Will County should fill out in order to prepare the county to as efficiently and quickly provide vaccines when the time comes for whichever category you are in. And this might be actually a time to answer a question that we had come through, which had to do with vaccinations. And again, we'll probably know a lot more about that next week, and we'll report on it, maybe even with a guest next week around vaccinations. Just yesterday, the governor announced some preliminary details around Category 1B, which is the category of vaccinations that address both people in Illinois, people over 65, as well as what they call frontline workers. Teachers, quote unquote, are in that category of 1B, and so it's still a unanswered question whether higher education is in that category. We're very optimistic that that's true, but we can't definitively say that today. So we'll have a lot more about that next week. And then we also assume if higher education is in that group, then other student-facing employees would also be qualified in that Category 1B. But again, we don't know that for sure. So we'll have a lot more about that, and we'll send out announcements about that as we get more direct clarification from our Will County Health representatives.
So can I just stop you there real quick, Chris? So I just want to remind people who are watching that on our website, if you go to just the front page of the Lewis website, there's a COVID piece of that, and you can click on that. And in addition to Chris's emails that come out every Thursday, we will be populating that with vaccine information.
Yes.
You don't have to wait till every Thursday. You can always go to our front page, go to the COVID site. You can pull that up, and you will find if there's new information about vaccinations, or certainly the testing that is still ongoing. All those kinds of different pieces are all in one location, and all of that stuff is available to our complete community.
Thank you.
Is up there.
Yeah,
So
thanks for
just
showing that.
reminding
It's such a great
people,
reminder.
I think most people
Yeah.
know that, but I think it's a good reminder.
It's a great reminder as we start the semester, because I know if you quickly look at it, it looks the same, but we are constantly revising it and adding information to it every day. So, and there are some new resources there as well that might be new to people. So, and then there's one other aspect of that question, which is that came through, which is sort of about advocacy. And I don't know if maybe you want to talk about that a little bit. We are, as I know from the local side, we have developed or had strong relationships with our county health officials, and have really deepened those relationships through this pandemic emergency, and are in really close contact with Will County, with IDPH, the Illinois Department of Public Health, and those relationships allow us to advocate for higher education and for Lewis in particular. And one example, in our contribution to the community is interwoven into that in terms of being a testing site for both of those, for both the state and the county agencies all through the fall semester, and that will continue. I'll announce more about that in a minute, but through those close relationships, we continue to advocate and get the best possible information for our students, faculty, and staff to get the best possible response, and including access to vaccines.
Yeah, and I guess what I would add to that, Chris, is so on the COVID level, not only do we have these great partnerships, Dr. Nancy Ryland, who's been on the show a couple times, worked very closely with many others with Will County and IDPH. I'm also involved, as is Dr. Sindt, with working with things like the Federation of Independent Colleges of Illinois, who advocates down in Springfield around understanding testing, understanding the vaccination rollout, making sure that higher ed is involved in those conversations. Also with NICU, which is the National Association of Independent Colleges and Universities, which does federal lobbying. And so we're involved in, again, the COVID testing rollout, keeping campuses safe across the country, as well as, of course, now with the vaccinations and how we will do that rollout. And I would just add to that, advocacy on those levels, on the state level and on the federal level, have been very successful. One of the guests I think that we'll have, or whether Chris and I'll do it just ourselves, one of the shows in the next couple months will be about the impact that the CARES Act 2 funding might have on Lewis University. So we received some information about that, but with the transition in terms of what's going on in Washington and the new administration coming in, and therefore then a new Secretary of the Department of Ed, the rules which are really going to define how that money can be used, the money in CARES Act 2 that Lewis will receive, we're going to, we probably won't know some of the details of that for 2 or 3 more weeks. As we get to know that a little more, we will let the community know. But the advocacy on the part of COVID testing, COVID vaccinations, and COVID relief are a consistent part of the way that Chris and I think and how we can communicate with what's going on in Springfield and what's going on in Washington, D.C., as well as, of course, what's going on in these broader agencies like IDPH and the National Institutes of Health as well.
Great, thank you so much for adding that. It's such an important reminder. So a couple more things about the COVID-19 preparation for the spring semester. So as most people in the community know, the residential students are required to submit a negative COVID-19 test result before check-in. That is done either through the app or through the website. And if you have the app, there's now a tile for submitting test results if you are a student. And or it can be done through the website, and those links will be in my email today. A positive test result requires 10 days of isolation before returning to campus after the beginning of the isolation period. And we obviously want to know about that. We want positive test results to be reported as well. I don't think I said this out loud, so I'm going to say it again. The test has to take place between January 4th and January 11th, so we're in the middle of that period now. My email today, as well as the website, thank you for that reminder, links to a national database of testing sites. So if locally we have testing available in a lot of places that we announce regularly, but if you are far away from campus and thinking and know that this is the period you need to be tested, you can link from that email I'm going to send out and locate your state and local county officials so that you can contact them to find out about testing in your region if you need to do that. For commuter students and employees, the testing is strongly recommended but not required, and can be, all the information and the reporting is similar. The testing continues to happen on our campus on Tuesdays. That will continue next week as well, and on through the month. And if you are interested in testing, there is a way to reserve, or for Lewis community members to reserve testing time for next Tuesday. I've mentioned the app a few times today. Please check it out. Remember to submit when you're coming to campus, or if you are a residential student on campus or moving in soon, remember to do the symptom screening on the app. And if for some reason you have made it this far without the app, or you're a new student who is entering campus now, there are instructions in my email today about how to download the app and get started using it. It is continuously full of really, really important information and also useful information about things other than COVID-19 as a student or member of our community. And then the last thing I'll mention is that we're asking all members of our community, students and employees, to reaffirm the Flyers promise and acknowledgement before the start of the term. And so that, again, is done through the app or on our website, and I'll link to that as well. There aren't significant changes to those documents. The testing requirements that I just mentioned for residential students are now included in that acknowledgement, but mostly we want our community members just to set aside a little time to think about the Flyers promise and to affirm their commitment to be a part of our, contribute to the healthy community that we need to have for the spring semester. And so that information about how to do that acknowledgement will come out today as well. I believe that's everything. Yeah, do you have any questions before we introduce our guest?
I don't think so, but maybe the question is about introducing our guest. So I know that there's a couple things, I was reminded by one of our producers, I couldn't see who actually wrote the text. We go back and forth in text while we're in the midst of this show. But this is our 30th episode of the year. We've reflected a little bit on what we want to do with the show for the spring semester. Certainly what we want to do is continue to bring the community up to date on what's going on with COVID, how we can stay safe as a community and continue to have an excellent educational experience. We're also going to use it to introduce some new people to the community that are new to campus. And we're starting that today with the first episode of this new year, but the 30th episode of the fiscal year, so to speak, or the academic year. So Chris, you can introduce our guest, but we're gonna, on a, may not be every week, but several times a month, we'll probably be bringing in a guest who is somebody new to the community that we think is really valuable for the rest of our employees and the students to get to know. And we're gonna maybe not just focus on their contribution to some specific question around COVID, but also ask them about their background and how they got here and those kind of questions. So go ahead. Yeah,
so I'm really excited. I just realized it's a coincidence, but appropriate coincidence that today was our new employee orientation for the for people who've started in recent months or are starting this month. So I'm really, really pleased to welcome Adam Kubiak, who is our new Director of Residence Life. And so we can bring him on. Hi, Adam. Welcome.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Great to be with you. Not only are you a new employee, but you are right. I think you began in beginning of November. Am I correct about that? Is that about right?
Yep. Yeah, October 28th.
October 28th, okay. And wow, that is a very interesting time to start as the director of residence life at Lewis. We were really, we still are, but certainly that was a time when we were very enthralled with all kinds of things going on related to COVID and especially related to the residence halls. So I bet that was pretty wild. But before we ask about that, maybe you could just tell us a little bit about where you were before coming to Lewis and what your background is in residence life or in student life areas.
Yeah. So directly before joining Lewis, I was at Columbia College Chicago, where I was the assistant director of community standards in residence life. So I worked there for about 4 years, working in residence life and overseeing the entire student conduct process for residential students. Previously to that, I was at Elmhurst College, so not too far from here. And right before that, I was actually a student at Western Michigan University and working at Kalamazoo College. But other than that, I started my career in residence life as an RA, as many people do, and kind of kept growing through the structure of residence life. And throughout my career, I've been attending and working at faith-based institutions, a couple institutions aside. So Lewis was kind of a great next professional fit for me when I'm taking both a big professional step and wanting to be comfortable in the environment that I'm working in.
That's great, Adam. So did you grow up in Michigan? Was Western Michigan a kind of like, I'm in Michigan, and do you still is family still a Michigan thing, and kind of how was the holidays for you and that kind of stuff?
Yeah, so I grew up on the east side of Michigan. Family is still there. So then attending school in Grand Rapids and Kalamazoo was just kind of wanting to be close to home, but far enough away to get the college experience.
No, it's great, and that's so many of our students do that, right? I mean, many of our Lewis students are in that, I guess, what I would call 2-hour radius, more or less, which is I don't want to be, I don't want my parents, 5 minutes away, and certainly some of our students live 5 minutes away, but many of our students are in exactly that boat, and so I think that sense of that you have is great for our students to connect to.
Definitely, yeah. It's a great balance between comfort and pushing yourself to grow.
So we don't want this to be a job interview, so this might sound a little bit like a job interview question, but I'm just always really curious, like could you just maybe tell us a little bit about what you love about working in this area? Because I can imagine, I'm familiar with some of the benefits that I have from working with students for my whole career, but I also know it's wild hours and just all kinds of issues come up in the profession that you've chosen. So I'm just always curious about what people love about what they do.
Yeah, it is crazy. But I really enjoy the very intentional interaction that I get to have with students. Actually, you mentioned that the employee mission orientation was earlier today. I was there. But it was really great to be able to talk to fellow new employees about the work that I get to do and the interaction and conversations and learning that I get to experience with students in the position that I'm in. Being in both residence life and student conduct, I get to have a lot of more difficult conversations with students that end up being very formative and educational for these folks that I get to see grow up while they're at our institution.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great.
So I guess I want to know also just what was it like for you to jump into this position in the middle of the pandemic, in the middle of a semester?
Yeah, I've been asked that several times by colleagues and family members, kind of the "what were you thinking" question. It has definitely been a challenge, just the state of the world. But I think that the students and my colleagues here have made the transition so smooth. I really couldn't have asked for a more welcoming community to join. And while dealing with residence life during a pandemic is a completely different monster than anybody's ever challenged, I feel like having the RAs and having my colleagues in residence life and in student services has really helped me not only tackle all the challenges that are presented to a residence life program in a pandemic, but also learning a new position in a new institution.
It's great. It's really wonderful to have you. And not only we appreciate you being here at Lewis, but taking the time today to be with us, introduce yourself. As you know, Adam, these shows, we have some people watching us live, but we'll also have many people who will watch it over the next few weeks because it's always available on YouTube. So I think it'll be great for people to get to know you a little bit through this medium.
Great. So maybe we had a question come in that maybe you can think about a little bit or address a little bit, which is what for people who are maybe not knee deep in the middle of this work, like what are some of the challenges that students have been having, from their perspective that you've seen as they've been fighting through the life during the pandemic?
Yeah, I think the biggest challenge that our students have encountered during the pandemic has been the struggle to really build an intentional community in residence halls. That's really what we're all about. But when we can't have students gathering and we have to limit guests and we can't have those programs and events that we would normally have to help build those connections, there's that added challenge. And I think our students have felt it. While we've made great efforts to make connections, limitations in being able to have physical gatherings poses a challenge that we just have to overcome. But I think that that's probably the one thing that the majority of students that I've heard from have mentioned that that's the hardest part.
Yeah, that's really makes sense to me. So I guess that might be a good transition into, we're entering into a new semester, and large numbers of students are going to be coming back, and I think we have a little information to share. And I know we've been communicating directly with residential students as they're planning their move-in, but maybe we could put that up if possible, the move-in dates, and maybe Adam can comment a little bit about those dates. And there they are. So why don't you go ahead and maybe add on to anything you'd like to add that might be good information for students moving in to have.
Okay, yeah, so as you can see, those are our move-in dates. We have chosen not to assign residents to a date or time, rather come at any time during those dates and times that you're available. We are doing a centralized check-in process for this semester. So we are asking all residents to come into the LRC, and that's where our staff will be available for you to make sure that you've submitted your PCR test result, make sure that you've reaffirmed the flyer's promise, and then to check you into your residence hall for the spring semester. We do believe that this process will allow us to kind of manage the crowds, should there be any, having a larger venue for that, as opposed to in each individual residence hall. But throughout the move-in process, we do still ask all of our residents to uphold all of our precautions that we've got in place, wearing face coverings, maintaining social distancing, all of that kind of stuff. But yeah.
So Adam, could I just ask, maybe I should know the answer to this question, but so as Chris mentioned earlier, we have students who are, many of them in the Chicago metro area, but spread out around the country, who are residential students. We have some international students who are returning. We have some international students who are new. As they look to get their PCR test and then give you and your staff the actual documentation, are there any recommendations? And I guess I'm thinking about this just in terms of my own life, I can imagine, this is such an important document, but I'm also trying to pack up my luggage and da-da-da, and then all of a sudden I leave it. Are there things, I don't know if it's taking a picture of it on their phone, if they, as soon as they get, I guess I'm just looking for practical advice around this issue of, I need this PCR test, I got to hand it off. They're coming from different states, different counties. Is there any advice you'd give to students in terms of, is there anything they can do on the front end? Could they send you a picture of it 3 days before they even come in and then bring the document with them? I don't know if there's anything that you would recommend to students or moms and dads who are watching about, because I'm assuming that there's some parents who will be the one, do you have your PCR test? Do you have your PCR test? That kind of thing.
For sure. So we are asking all of our residents to submit their PCR test through the Lewis U app. So that's where they can upload a photo. We just ask that they make sure the photo includes their full name, the date that the test was taken, obviously the result, and what type of test it was. But even though a student may submit that, their technology, we have to be prepared for it. So if a student, like you said, has a photo of it on their phone or in their email, that's something that our staff can definitely work with them to accept as proof that they've got their test.
That's great.
That's great.
Thank you so much.
And I just want to say that I practiced doing this today.
Good.
And if I can upload an image, anybody can. So it's really easy to use. And that's just the way Adam described it is how it worked for me. You just click a button and then there's a little upload thing you click on and you can attach your photo to it. And it's really well done and easy to use. I know we said this would be short, but we have more questions we want to ask you. And just kind of following up about 2 or 3 questions ago, we were talking about the student experience in the fall. Mm-hmm. And we've talked before on the show, and I know we will maybe next week and in future weeks about student life during COVID-19 generally, and how we've worked so hard as a group of many professionals across the campus to make a lively student experience. But I'm just curious, maybe I have it's a 2-part question. One is, what are we doing kind of right now to prepare for a vibrant beginning of the semester in terms of residential student life? And then more generally, if you have any ideas just from your background and your experience that you've come and I know it's a really unusual time, but you've got the lay of the land a little bit. I'm just wondering if you have some ideas that you want to share about what you might want to start doing over the course of the spring semester.
Yeah, for sure. Well, to speak to the planning part for the beginning of the semester, I know that the student life planning group, we actually had our first meeting this past week. We are planning to get together some good events for our residential students and all of our students on campus. This is definitely a time to be leaning on our partners and working together to provide really great quality programming within safety guidelines. As far as some ideas that I would like to see maybe grow and be implemented, I think ideally as we work through this pandemic and vaccination rollout and hopefully keeping numbers down, it would be really great to be able to see some controlled in-person programming. I know that's something that we've been pretty hesitant about doing in the residence halls just because there is a certain aspect of needing to control the environment. But I think that's something that we can, as the semester progresses, start to explore a little bit and hopefully implement some of those. But also, I think really getting creative with the virtual programming that we do offer. I know that Student Activities has offered some events where residents can take supplies back to their halls and then virtually join together to do some painting or pumpkin carving. I know that something that at my previous institution, one of the RAs had really great success with was doing kind of like a cooking show. And that's something that I've shared with the RAs here on campus, and I'm hoping that one of them might take up the challenge of starting something like that. But yeah.
It's great. Yeah, well, I will say what I said at the beginning. We're really excited about students coming back, excited about your RAs coming back. And, you know, there is an energy around all of this. And I do hope, as you say, that not only can we keep people really safe at the beginning of the semester, because, you know, I think that's the real concern. There's this sense of, can we just hold on for a couple more months while the vaccine begins to roll itself out? And we have to be extra cautious with the basic things that I think I've said on the show 100 times. Wear your face covering, wash your hands, keep at a decent physical distance so that you're not passing along this. But then the excitement you're talking about, which is, you know, we've learned things, and RAs have learned things, and you've learned things, and so there's some creativity around. I love that idea of a cooking show, you know, where students can participate in learning something, but do it at a safe distance. So I think there's a lot of excitement around that. Every month that goes by this semester, there might just be a few more opportunities, and we'll continue to be more creative with how we can build that community and stay safe as a Lewis community. So I don't know if you have any additional
I
questions.
just want to say, you know, Adam, thank you so much for joining us today. And, you know, I know today was your new employee orientation, but in COVID time, you've been here long enough to make a really, really significant impact on the quality of our students' experience. So I just want to express my gratitude to you for the work you've already done here. And I'm really excited about the ideas that you are bringing to us as well. So I actually forgot to make an announcement earlier,
please.
Unrelated to Adam, so thank you, Adam. And then we just forgot to mention, I know a lot of our members of our community are interested in the Brothers community.
Yes.
And I just wanted to give a quick update about that around their health updates. All but one of the brothers in the Brothers community have contracted COVID-19. All have completed recovery. One brother is still in a care off campus, was hospitalized for a while and has gone to a different care center, and is planned to return soon. We really are grateful for all of the members of the community who've expressed their interest in the Brothers community, and I know that they are very appreciative of that interest and people reaching out to them. And so that's the update, and that'll be in my message today as well. But it was very hard news about Brother Leo in December, but we're very pleased that there's been a lot of positive news around their recoveries as things have transpired over December and up until now.
Yeah, that's great, Chris. And so as we wrap up the show, you know, I guess I want to second what Chris just said. You know, I've been able to be in conversation over the last couple of months with Brother James, who leads the community on campus, and I want to thank them for their prayerful support of us. You know, they've been praying for us as a community throughout the semester and continue to pray for the students and the faculty and staff that we have a great spring semester. But I know our community has really been thinking about the brothers and praying for the brothers, and we're very pleased that that even though it was really difficult, that the brothers have recovered from COVID. You know, we keep Leo and his family, Brother Leo and his family in our prayers. And again, I just want to say to all of you how excited we are to have all of you back on campus or back in your virtual classrooms. We're excited to have athletics begin again. Of course, we'll have probably another virtual play or two this spring, and art openings. There's just so much on this campus that is so exciting. Again, thank you to Joe and John for making this show possible. Looking forward to have our students back who work behind the scenes once the semester begins. And just want to say to all of you, you know, that we're thinking of you as you plan and prepare for returning to campus and returning to class. And we wish you a good week and a half left of your break, but also are excited about the start of the semester. So many blessings to you and your family, and have a great week. We'll see you next week.